Hey, welcome to a new video. My name is Jack Jusko. I am a University of Michigan computer science student who's taking a gap year due to coronavirus. Today's video is part 1 in a 2-video series about digital currencies and what asymmetric encryption is. You've probably heard of digital currencies such as Bitcoin. These currencies have grown immensely popular within the last couple of years. You've probably heard about Bitcoin's extreme rise in price over the last maybe 3 years and then its extreme fall. These currencies are popular among some people for that reason, for investment purposes, for trying to make as much money in quick cash grab schemes as they can. Um, they're popular among a second group of people too, people who are more distrustful of the government. These currencies are popular among people who are distrustful of the government because of the fact that they have no central authority. Um, there's nobody that can regulate who has how much money, who can issue money. Money is issued at a set rate, and once somebody has it digitally, there's no way that anybody can take it away from them. Um, so today I'm going to talk about what asymmetric cryptography is, which is the foundational part, or one of the foundational parts, of these digital or cryptocurrencies um, that allows them to operate without a central authority or somebody who's issuing and taking away money and can control what transactions are going through this payment or this currency system. Without asymmetric cryptography, there would likely be no cryptocurrencies or digital currencies because there would be a central authority that is required to be involved. So before I begin talking about asymmetric cryptography, I want to give a brief introduction of digital currencies. Digital currencies or cryptocurrencies are so popular among those who are investing for the reason that, for technically the reason that there's no central authority that can regulate how much they are valued respective to other things. In a traditional payment system, a government can print money, can absorb money back into it for the purpose of spending, and can to some extent regulate deflation or inflation of the currency. In a cryptocurrency, there's no central authority. That means once something is done, nobody singly has the power to change it. So realistically, nobody can regulate the value of these cryptocurrencies. It's only regulated by how much it's valued against other things. Um, that, coupled with a relatively low overall supply of the currency, can mean that each dollar or coin, however you want to describe it, price can vary wildly um, against other things in the market, just depending on how much people are valuing it at that point. So I mentioned at least 4 times at this point that digital currencies have no central authority. The way this is set up is through a network of things called nodes. Each node in a digital currency is its own computer or virtualized computer. Say we have a network with 3 nodes here. This drawing is not the prettiest. That are all running the currency software. These nodes represent the people who are verifying the transactions are real and secure in a network. In each node, they each have a full copy of what transactions have occurred since the starting of the currency's existence, and a balance of each user of the currency system. So sometimes this is calculated by summing up the positives and negatives in all prior transactions. Um, Commonly, this is used as blockchain, which is a current technology. It doesn't have to be done as blockchain, but what you call this when every node in the network has a copy of all the transactions and possibly the balances that have occurred is a distributed ledger. So the ledger of who has balances and who has what is copied among all nodes in the network so that everybody has or should have the exact same thing. When a transaction is done, say when user A wants to send money to user B, they file a request to one of these nodes to do this, which is then propagated among all of the other nodes in the network. They use asymmetric cryptography, which I'm going to get to in a second, the main purpose of this video, to verify that that transaction is in fact a valid one. It's actually being sent from user A and not by some bad exterior user. If it's valid, it goes through, it's propagated through the network, and each ledger is updated with these changes. When spending money, the ledger, each node confirms, talks to whatever term you want to use. The majority rules in this situation. If other nodes are giving back different results, such as maybe this node rejected it, but this node accepted it, and this node wants to accept it. In this case, majority rules. The transaction goes through because 2 out of 3 say good. Little smiley face there. In a currency system like this too, people who are running these nodes get a little incentive, form of a little teeny bit of cash, for validating that these transactions are in fact correct. Nodes that are returning results that are inconsistent with the rest of the network don't get anything, and are often disconnected from the network by the ones that are verified to have accurate and good copies of data. So that's kind of the essence of how digital currencies are set up. So cryptography as a whole is the idea of secure communications. So communication between A and B, if A is sending a message to B, this communication is thought to be secure if it's cryptographically secured in some way, as in either it's not readable to the general public, or you can confirm that it is actually coming from A if you are B or any outside identity, some form of knowing that a message is secure. Encryption falls under cryptography. And it was previously synonymous, but is not at this point in modern times. We'll just leave it ENC for brevity. Is the process of securely encoding information for transmission. So say, as prior examples have used, I have Jack. If Jack is encrypted, it is encoded into some other bit of data, and there's a process of encoding and decoding this information. So the most common type of encryption is called symmetric key cryptography. Even if you haven't heard this term before, you probably have seen it used and understand what it is. It's used in kids' ciphers, lots of things like that. Maybe you've seen a puzzle decoding wheel where you can, switch letters in the alphabet around. This is called a Caesar cipher, where say A corresponds to B, B corresponds to C, C corresponds to D, etc. And you can switch letters around to encode or encrypt a message so that only the person with the cipher can see it. So the principle of symmetric encryption is that data, we'll say Jack here, is encrypted using some technology, using a password. We'll say the password is 123, and then becomes some hidden or some changed piece of data, and then if you have this changed piece of data, you can run it back with the original password, and you will end back up with Jack. If, say, you do not have this original password, and say 234 is your password, you'll get a result that is not Jack, and you will not be able to read your original message. asymmetric key cryptography, or asymmetric encryption, has very different principles in this. It is far less common, far less heard of than the two. The way that asymmetric encryption works are there are two different passwords that somebody has. Say that this is password 1, and this is password 2. There are symbolic links between these two passwords. One of them is used to encrypt, called the encryption key, and one of them is used to decrypt, called, I'm sure you could guess, the decryption key. These encryption and decryption keys mathematically have a one-to-one relationship. For example, there's one encryption key that corresponds with one decryption key, and vice versa. There's no one-to-many relationship either direction that you're going there. So, an example of how this works, say, you can use this in multiple ways. Say I want to use asymmetric key cryptography so that people can securely send messages to other people. And say I am an entity, a person, whatever. Say I am this person, Joe, and I want to be able to securely receive messages from people where people can freely send messages to me, but only I can decode the contents of those messages. So if they're caught in transit somewhere, other people can't read them except for me. So I have this encryption and this decryption key. I would take this encryption key and spread it out to the general public. So say here are all the people that want to send me a message. And I would take this decryption key, that is a terrible rectangle, and I would keep it to myself. So now, anybody who wants to send me a message can create a message. They can encode it with my encryption key here, which I've made public, and they can send to me through some form this encrypted message. But only I, who hold the decryption key, can read the message that they're sending me, even though anybody can send me a message. A second way around would be say I am an entity Jack, and I still have, same as last, my encryption, my decryption keys available. This time, my decryption key is going out to the general public. I'm not going to draw as many figure this time for brevity again. And my encryption key is one that I'm locking up so that other people don't have access to this. Now, this system can be used to verify that a message coming from somebody, coming from Jack, say, actually is Jack. So if I encrypt a message, if I encrypt message hello, and I encrypt it really with my encryption key, and I send it off, and I say, hey, this is from me. You can verify I actually wrote this by decrypting it. They can take my encrypted message, say, and decrypt it with the decryption key, and they can read the original message. If this is encrypted with a different key, this decryption key obviously will not return the same thing, and they'll know the message isn't from me. This will be useful for not being able to impersonate somebody else. Say if I wanted to say I am Joe, I've encrypted it with Joe's encryption key. Here it is. I need to actually have Joe's encryption key. Otherwise, when somebody is trying to read my message, they decrypt it with Joe's decryption key, and they can see that the message is not what it is supposed to be because it wasn't really encoded with Joe's decryption key. This second form is how digital currencies are set up. When a transaction is made, between, say, Mike to Sally, Mike is taking his message, adding an extraneous bit of information to it, taking this extraneous bit of information and encrypting it. This is called signing the message so that people can actually verify it's him. Now, this is sent out to all the nodes in the network who already have Mike's decryption key, but they do not know his encryption key. They can decrypt this extraneous piece of data to verify that it matches what is expected to, therefore being able to verify that it is in fact Mike who is authorizing this transaction to Sally. If this extraneous bit of information is not decrypted to what it's expected to, they can say that no, this is not Mike. Mike would have this key. Somebody else trying to act in Mike's place would not, and they can reject the transaction. So that, in essence, is how this distributed currency system can verify that messages, that transactions are actually coming from one person without having a central authority there to verify who is sending the message. The most common forms of asymmetric key cryptography or asymmetric encryption are RSA and EEC, where RSA is 3 last names, which is based on prime number factoring for the system that allows these public and private keys to exist. ECC is ecliptic, or elliptic, I believe. Curve cryptography. And it is based on the unique properties of what is called an elliptic curve, and how operations can be applied to lines on it in order to create these public and private keys and create this relationship where you can encode and decode with them. This video is not going to contain the information about how each of these work, but if you are interested in how these work, check back tomorrow. I'll have a video up with how RSA works and how ECC works, and some common stuff that they're used in for a real-world example. Thank you for watching. The usual things apply. If you like this, be sure to hit like, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell to see future videos. If you didn't like it but you want to see something else, be sure to drop a comment below and tell me why. Again, this is video 1 in a 2-video series. Tomorrow I'll be releasing a video explaining how RSA and ECC cryptography works and providing some real-world examples of things that they're used in. Signing off.